let's talk about how I made this sustainable genuine leather purse without a pattern, all by scratch. And basically I just chose the size that I wanted and went from there. So that's exactly how I started. I kind of folded it and decided by looking at it how I wanted the size. Now I had already had the leather that I got from Amazon to use for this, and I thought this was a great leather for a purse. So then using a cutting board and a box cutter, I got to cutting, and again measured it out to the size that I wanted. And I made it just a little bit bigger than actually how I wanted it so that I can actually sew it on the inside. And yes, we're going to be hand sewing. I did not use any tools or anything like that as far as like a sewing machine, a needle, anything like that. Just a hole punch, the box cutter, and the cutting boards. Now, once I got the material cut to the size I wanted to measure out the holes that I'm going to be using to actually sew. And I want to make sure they're even on each side, so I folded it to get an idea of where I want them. And then I used a white eyeliner pencil to actually draw little spots where I'm going to be using a hole punch to hole punch those holes. And again, the most important thing is that you just want to make sure these are even on both sides so that the purse will be sewn right and look right. Then using a hole punch, I got to punch in those holes where I marked them. And yes, I do them one by one. I find it hard to do it folded and trying to go through 2 layers of that leather. Now, once I get all these holes punched, I did make my own string. Using the same material that I used for the purse, I actually cut strings, and I just kind of guessed how I wanted them. I used that box cutter, and then I just cut little strips there that made the strings. So then, time to sew. So you can see I'm just going through each of those holes and sewing just like I would be sewing if I was making a dress or shirt or something like that with a needle and thread. And in case you can't tell, I do have it folded inside out for this part, because that way whenever I fold it back the other way out, you won't be able to see all my sewing, and it's going to make it hold everything in so you don't have to worry about anything falling out. So it works out great. And of course you do want to repeat this on both sides, and like I said, that's why you wanted to have those holes even and measured out so that you can have this sewn right. And then once I got to the top of each side, I just kind of tied it off right there so that it won't come loose and it'll hold. And then once I've sewed and got it all tied, now it's time to flip it other way around. So it's not going to be inside out, it's going to be right side out. And then now it's going to look more like a purse. You'll see. Give me like just a few seconds to make sure that it all gets squished out and folded right. You don't want to leave it all clumpy and smushy like this. And now is actually when I went to tie that part. That way I could pull it and make sure that everything was sewed tight enough. Now it's time to make the straps. And again, I just kind of guessed the size that I wanted. I think I ended up making them about 1 inch thick and maybe like a foot or 2 long. You just want to make sure they're both even, and I did do 2 of them. That way I don't have like the inside fraying. I'm going to have like 2 nice of the smooth sides, if that makes sense. You'll see. And then once I've got those cut, I'm going to do hole punches right there on the inside where I sewed, where it's folded over. There's 2 little places, 2 little those leather pieces there, and I'm going to punch a hole through both of them and stick the straps right in there, and then you won't even be able to see them, or at least see where they're attached and sewn. So then also punch holes in the bottom of the straps right there, and then I'm going to stick them right through those other holes, take some of my string and sew it. And boom, we have the purse. Now if you want to have a liner, you could use a bandana, even a pillowcase, something like that as a liner. I'm not even going to be using a liner, and it also matches my tube top. Loves it.